Hello grade 2, happy Friday. As you can see, I'm back outside and it's another beautiful day here at BGB. We're back in our woodland environment, and that's because today we're going to be focusing on all of the different plants that grow in a woodland environment. We're going to learn about the features of a woodland environment, what makes it special, why plants grow in a woodland environment, why some plants can't grow in a woodland environment, and also maybe touch a little bit on some animals that live amongst all of those plants. Before we start our class today, I thought we could take a little walk all around our area here at BGB and look at some of the different types of plants a little bit more closely while we're outside. Are you ready to join me? Okay, come on then. So, if we come around from the back of the entrance to ISC, we find ourselves amongst all of this great woodland. It starts all the way here to my left. I wonder if you can tell me what type of trees these trees are. Would they be evergreen trees? Would they be conifer trees? This is one of the most overgrown areas here in our woodland, which means that there are so many different types of plants and trees growing here. In fact, one of them, which I'll show you in just a second, is really tall. Do you remember the name of the ones that are really tall that grow in woodland areas? That's correct, they're conifer trees. And the reason that this area is so overgrown is because those trees have distributed and dispersed all of their seeds across all of this hill area, which has meant that so many different types of other plants that grow in woodland areas have been able to grow really healthily and strong. Okay, I'm going to show you now a quick clip, all of this area here, showing you just how big this huge conifer tree is. Okay, let's have a look. So if we come a little bit more closely towards the woodland floor, we can find more flowering plants. These tend to stay either much closer to the floor of the woodland area, or they will grow on some of the larger trees. The reason that they do stay close to the floor is because they need to grow from the soil, as we have been learning about. Obviously, we know that the roots are deep into that soil, which is allow for that stem to grow up, produce those leaves, and finally the flowering plant. So here we've got our pine trees. These trees, as we know, are evergreen trees, and that's because they never lose their leaves. If I bring this down a little bit more closely, we can see that the leaves on this tree are long, thin spines. We'll have a little bit of a closer look at this in a moment. So we can see that these guys also grow to a really large size, just like the conifer trees that we saw at the beginning. But the difference between these ones is that later in the year, when it starts to get colder, past the autumn or fall into winter, we will still see these nice and green from our classroom. Just wait and see. Here's some more examples of flowering plants here in the woodland area. As you can see, these ones have grown from this tree that's growing out of the ground. So in the soil here, we do still have roots, but they're growing this beautiful, well, it's a small conifer right now, but it will grow to be much larger. And they've got these beautiful flowers that are also here as well. What do you think the flowers are here for? That's right, they're dispersing the seeds that will help more of these to grow, which we can see there's lots and lots of growth all around the base of this tree here. So it's not just flowering plants from the woodland floor, but also from the trees as well. Look! Here's another huge pine tree, another evergreen that you'll still see from the classroom window that's right up there. Finally, this is one of the biggest trees that we do have here at BGB. It's huge. It must have been here for a really long time. It's got a huge trunk and it has both huge leaves and small leaves. This tree will die in the autumn and the winter. What type of tree would we call this? We've just seen the evergreen behind you. Of course, this one is a conifer tree and it's absolutely huge. I hope that soon we can come back here together and you can have a look at just how big this tree is. But for now, I'll see if I can get a good shot of it for you. Okay, so we've had a nice look around our woodland area here at BGB. We've looked at some different plants, we've looked high up into the trees, and we've looked low down onto the woodland floor. Of course, I can't show you everything that there is to see in this woodland area because there are so many different types of plants and trees here. We'd be here for hours. So what we'll do when we come back together is we'll come out here and we'll explore it together. Then that means that you can have a real close look with your own eyes and maybe even pick some of the plants to have a real closer look. But for now, I'd like to take a closer look at what goes on inside a more dense woodland area. Why do plants grow in those types of areas? What types of plants are more common there? And let's have a look at some types of animals that also live around that in a woodland area. But first, I've got a little bit of a matching activity for you. There's going to be a picture of a woodland environment that's about to come up on your screen. What I'd like you to do is use the vocabulary at the bottom of your screen to try and match up all of the different parts and label that picture of a woodland area. We'll do it together first, and then you can pause the video and you can see if you can have a go yourself. Good luck. Okay, grade 2. So I said that we're going to start off with looking at a picture of a woodland habitat today, and we're going to be labeling part of that picture. We've got a picture of some trees and plants and also the animals that live within a woodland habitat. Okay, let's go with this activity. What we need to do is drag and drop the labels into the correct place on the picture of our woodland habitat. Let's go ahead and click play. So here's our woodland environment. We can see there are trees, and there are plants, and there are animals. At the bottom of the screen, you can see that we've got different labels. What we need to do is click and drag them into the right place. Let's start with the squirrel. Can anybody spot where the squirrel is? I think it's not on the ground. It's high up the tree eating a nut. There we are. So what we need to do is click and drag that label up and drop it next to the picture. There we are. The next label is the deer. I can see the deer right in front of me looking very, very proud in its woodland habitat. So again, we need to click and drag up to the picture. Well done. Can anybody spot the owl? Can you point to that on your screen for me? That's right, he's up the tree. Well done, everybody. Now this one, it says damp undergrowth. Now the undergrowth is basically the woodland floor. The reason it would be damp is because of the moist air that we find in a woodland environment. I think it looks like it could be over this side. We can check that a little bit later. Where would the grass be, do we think? I wonder. I'm going to move damp undergrowth. Oh no, I can see the grass up here in our food chain. Excuse me. There we go. Maybe you spotted that before I did. Good job, everybody. The next label is of a fox. Now, foxes love to live in a woodland environment. It's their perfect habitat because of all of the great trees and all of the floor, and they can dig burrows and have their homes there. Can you see that in the food chain as well? It's at the top of the food chain because it is a predator. Then we've got a rabbit. Rabbits are eaten by foxes, so it's in the food chain. And if you remember back in grade 1, you looked at the food chains with Mr. M and Miss Carpati. Now we've got another animal before we move back on, is a woodpecker. A woodpecker uses its beak to find food inside the tree trunks. I'm giving you a hint there. That's right, it's the bird that's up here on the tree, pecking at the wood. Where can we find trees? Of course, the trees are right in front of us. They're nice and tall, big conifer trees that we saw outside in the BGV woodland area. A woodlouse likes to live on the woodland floor. They tend to live around the rocks or under rocks. Can you see it to the right-hand side? That's right, it's over here. That's a woodlouse, it's a little insect. Finally, we've got to check where we have some shade. Shade means that that's where the sunlight cannot get to. That's right, it's over here underneath that big rock. How did we do? Shall we check? Okay. Oh no, some of them are not correct. Let's try swapping some around. So it says that we've missed where the shade is. Why don't we try putting the shade over here? Because we put the damp undergrowth there. And maybe the reason this says undergrowth is because it's under the rock. Let's check a second time. Ta-da! We did it. Well done, grade 2. Okay, so we're going to come and have a look now at some other parts of a woodland habitat. Let's remind ourselves, what is a woodland habitat? Well, we've just explored our one here at BGV. A woodland habitat is full of lots of different types of trees, plants, and animals. It's best to describe it as a small forest habitat. The difference between a forest and a woodland is that a woodland habitat has more open space, forming more of an open habitat for plants and animals to live and grow in. So here are some types of trees that live inside a woodland habitat. We're going to find out the names and some information about all of them. Let's have a look at this tree here. This is called an oak tree. It's another type of coniferous tree, which means that it loses its leaves in the autumn. It has a very wide growth span and has very, very hard wood. We actually use lots of oak wood to make the furniture in our homes. Here we have an ash tree. Again, this is a type of coniferous tree. That means it loses its leaves in the autumn or fall. It can grow to a very, very large size and is common to woodland habitat. As you can see underneath, it produces lots of shade, and that keeps the soil around it moist and full of excellent nutrients. The next one that you might have seen, this one especially is in the autumn or the fall, is called the beech tree. This is another type of coniferous tree, and it's part of a special family of trees. They are called deciduous trees. And deciduous trees, like the beech tree, grow mainly in parts of Asia, Europe, and North America, where it has 4 distinct, very clear seasons: spring, summer, autumn, and winter. It doesn't like it to be too hot, and it doesn't like it to be too cold. This one we can see up very high into the mountains, and it's called the silver birch tree. The silver birch grows very, very tall, long trunks, and at the very, very top has lots and lots of leaves. Again, this is a deciduous tree and is mainly found in high places. If you climb mountains, you'll see these growing because woodland areas tend to gather around the base of mountains and go up mountains. However, the further you go up a mountain, you'll find that the silver birch trees will get smaller and smaller, and that's because of the oxygen levels. These are mainly found in Asia and other parts of Europe. So let's have a look at some other smaller plants that grow in the woodlands. As well as trees, many other plants have woodlands as their habitat. On the woodland floor, just like we saw earlier when I was outside, many flowers can grow, particularly in spring, just like right now. These flowers grow even with the limited sunlight that can get through the trees. That's because they sprout their roots from that seed and they can grow really, really strong. Here are 3 examples that we can find in the woodland environment. We find bluebells, and those seeds burst in that burst dispersal. We have celandines. These seeds get picked up by animals and insects. And finally, we have the beautiful wood anemone. These are beautiful flowers, and also their seeds are taken by animals and insects. Well, guys, thank you for joining me earlier on my woodland walk and for looking at some of the things that we have growing around BGV. Thanks for having a look at some of the stuff that we have growing in other woodland areas around the world. Maybe next time you're in a woodland area, take a look for some of the types of trees that I've shown you today and see if you can identify them. Okay, grade 2, thank you very, very much for coming and joining me on my woodland walk again today. I'm happy that we've had a closer look at some of the different types of plants and trees that we have here in our woodland area at BGB. How did you get on with your matching of the different parts of the picture of the woodland area? Were you able to figure out all the different types and different parts? Were you able to label it very well? I hope so. We're going to be moving on to a new habitat next week. So after the weekend, we're going to be finding out a little bit more about other plants that grow in other areas in different habitats in other parts of the world. I hope that you've enjoyed learning about woodland areas and the woodland habitat and all of the different types of plants and trees that grow there. Have a great weekend, everybody. I can't wait to see you again next week. Take care for now. Look after yourselves and stay healthy. Bye.